I see the next one is youth redefining civic engagement. Man, these are such powerful topics. I love it. So when you are ready, you can go ahead and unmute and introduce yourselves and carry on.
Okay, perfect. Will do. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you. And we see the
Okay.
screen right now.
Perfect. Hi everyone. My name is Emily Gorodetskiy, and I'm the co-founder of both Redefining Democracy and Plain Policy. And like I think it was Kelly that just mentioned, things will really grow and blossom when you do it with your friends. And so I brought my co-founder Leah Mordehai here together. Everyone. And we're going to talk to you first about plain policy and then Redefining Democracy. So how we're using civic engagement to really how we're using technology to boost civic engagement among our peers. And also fun note is that like we met on LinkedIn. Yeah. So and now we're best friends and now we co-founded so many startups together. And so I just really want to touch on how much I believe that so much can happen, so many projects can flourish when you work together with your peers. Yeah. And with that, plain policy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, everyone. And I'm here to talk about plain policy. So the problem that I identified in my community is a lot of people don't really understand what they're voting on, both in the ballot or the legislation that's going through their states at the state level, because of the way it's kind of written in legalese or not accessible to youth or people who are not native English speakers. Um, for example, this is a bill text and there's a lot of problems that, right, it references kind of codes that you don't have access to on the ballot, that you as the average citizen might not know what it means. It, requires you to understand certain legal terms. The paragraph is not written in a way that's easy to understand. And so I really wanted to make it easier to understand what is really written in our laws and how that's going to impact people's lives, especially when it's a ballot and it's something that, voters are voting on. So my solution to this was plain policy, which generates 150 word to 300 word summaries at an eighth grade reading level to make policies more understandable without losing their core meaning. So we do this using AI, but we have a couple of safeguards to ensure that this works well. So first, the summaries produce citations as to where in the bill text they're pulling information from. The main feature of this AI is that something like ChatGPT can pull sources from all over the internet, from Reddit, from biased media. Our AI only reads directly bill text published on government websites like Leginfo and Legistar and actually does the work of simplifying them. And we train this database to create summaries that don't have predictive language framing or that do advocacy for a legislation. And we went through all these steps and got our app certified by the San Francisco Department of Elections as nonpartisan and accurate. Um, and here briefly, I just want to show you what the product is. So on the left, you can see a ballot proposition from San Francisco that's very wordy, very hard to understand. And on the other side, you can see what plain policy produces, where it kind of breaks down purpose and kind of the key provisions of a ballot. And it does so where it's actually back checking, like if there's a reference to a code or a constitution, it does that back check and will tell you if there is an implication of that. Whereas if you're just reading the text in the poll, like you don't even have access to like a constitution or to a code that it could be referencing. And so in that way, you're coming into the ballot a lot more knowledgeable about what you're voting on. And the inspiration for this was learning about the work that many civil rights activists like Medgar Evers have done against poll taxes and literacy tests, and thinking about how we can continue to decrease language barriers to voting and participating in democracy with the tools of 2026. And plain policy is used by a lot of different organizations that produce content about voting, a lot of like youth groups who are teaching youth how to write policy, research about policy. And yeah, if you're interested, I would encourage you to log on to Plain Policy, explore. It'll be beneficial for you with the upcoming primary elections, at least in California. And so, yeah, I would encourage you to use Plain Policy, and it works for state level legislation in all 50 states and certain cities in California. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Emily.
Okay. Oh, did you want to touch on this? No.
I mean,
okay. And then next we're going to talk about VRing Democracy. Actually, VRing Democracy was selected as one of the Innovation World's 20 Under 20 honorees back in January. So I'm really excited to be here to present about VRD. So what was a problem that we saw in our community? First, I noticed that among there's a really big immigrant population in San Francisco, and I noticed that so many of them were discouraged to vote because there were so many barriers, whether that be, okay, where's the polling place, or how can I find resources in different languages. There was so much voter confusion, and I do believe that leads to voter suppression and less people turning up to the polls. This is also the same among youth who are not always taught in our classrooms, where to go to the polls, how to research who to vote for, and different stuff like this. And so I wanted to make sure that we were educating our next generation as well as our entire community on how they can go to the polling place and what to do at the polling place, and just to make sure that they feel confident when it's time to cast your vote. And I also believe that democracy fails when participation depends on insider knowledge. And by that, I mean, well, who is educated on this topic or not? Okay, here's the solution. Within VR and Democracy, we currently have 5 different scenes. The first one is, how do you register to vote? Like, what documents do you need? How do you fill this out, etc. The next one is, where do you get in line to vote? The third one is, what if you're doing this on a voting machine and it breaks down? Where do you go to ask for a paper ballot? What if you need an absentee ballot, etc. Just making sure that you are prepared for voting day. This experience is also translated not just in English, but also in Arabic, Spanish, Mandarin, and Russian, which are one of the top languages other than English in my area. And we also have hub leaders throughout the United States and actually throughout the world. And we've curated the VR scenes to match the voting laws and policies within their areas. And they're also currently working on translating it into regional languages as well. We also have the languages verified by fluent speakers, just to make sure that the translations do not mean something that we don't intend. So basically, this educates users on their voting rights, because there's one scene that's about, well, what if someone tells you that you can't stay in line there, or the voting place is closed when you know it's not? So how do you assert your rights in that situation? For me, I'm a visual learner, so to be able to see this process genuinely helped me understand it more, and I got similar feedback when I presented it to other people in my community. And then here are a few partnerships we've been able to form with Legal Women Voters and a bunch of research institutions to see how we can grow this VR headset to be integrated into schools. Our long-term goal is probably be like in 50 years from now, but it's to have one VR headset in every single school in America to help. It's more like an education tool. Maybe it will still be used for civic engagement, but it might also be used for like financial literacy education, anything of that sort. So these are the partnerships we're able to form to be able to turn this idea into reality. Okay. Also, like I mentioned earlier, civic education and having like a mentor, a teacher to encourage you to vote is not required by the state of California. There's no policy that says, hey, like every single teacher should tell their students, especially seniors in high school, where to go to the polls. That's why for me it was really important that I was able to go to our Capitol and advocate for Senate Bill 745, which increased the civic education mandate from 1 semester to a full year, so that we don't just touch on the federal government, but we also touch on state and local governments. And you can watch the full clip with the QR code on the left. So I wanted to share a quick video of how it's going and what we want to do to make sure that this VR headset can be used on also non-election years. So hopefully this loads. Let me know if you guys can hear it.
I'm not hearing the audio.
Oop.
Kristen, can you hear the audio?
I think it's just
Not
really
yet. When you share, you might need to
Share
unshare
sound.
screen and then reshare screen and share sound.
Hello, my name is Kian Montemayor.
Does
Got
it
it.
work now?
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Yep, that's working.
When we first started back in August, our goal was simple. With the VR experience that helps people stay connected with their communities, even in years between elections. Just a few months later, we're excited to share that our new VR scene will be rolling out next week. The purpose of the scene is to show that civic engagement doesn't only happen during election years. It's about being proactive, staying informed, and having a voice in your community every day. Whether it's attending a city council meeting, going to a rally, or volunteering for a local campaign, this scene will give the users a chance to learn more about these opportunities Here's a quick preview of what you'll see. Our goal is to make civic engagement more accessible, interactive, and meaningful, even outside election season. We're so proud of how much we've accomplished since August, and we can't wait for you to try this new system.
Okay, and that was made by our developer for both Plain Policy and VR and Democracy. His name is Kian, and he's also a student like us. Our entire team is student-led, which we're really proud of. So that's what we are working on currently, is how can we make sure that this tool is also useful during non-election seasons. And I also, this is like my main takeaways for fellow youth. Your network is your strongest distribution tool, and it might be the person sitting right next to you. You never know if that classmate that you'll meet in your English class or your history class, you might also see like a problem together and want to create a solution together. And I feel like for youth, I felt really disencouraged by creating something like a VR headset. I didn't feel like I had, the tools and the resources to be able to do so. But what really helped me was never being afraid of reaching out. Send that cold DM, reach out to someone on LinkedIn, maybe even like talk to your like tech team at school and see if they can help you out, turn your idea into reality. Also, I really want to emphasize the importance on having a team with you. This Having someone else to rely on, especially when times are rough or you feel like you're struggling with this certain code and you feel like you want to give up, having that like sense of encouragement is something that was really important for me. And I also hope that fellow youth can take this away, whether or not they're building a civic engagement tool, but maybe, whatever floats their boat, whatever they want to make. I think it's just really important to have a really supportive team. Okay, we won't get to this activity today, but I do want to encourage, if there's any youth out there that want to work with VR and Democracy, please follow the QR code, or I will also put the link in the chat, but it's just vrandemocracy.org. If you have a question for me, or if you have an idea for what our next scenes should be, please reach out to me through that website. There's a contact form on there, and yes, we're always looking for more youth leaders to join our team and hopefully send our headsets too. And with that, we want to thank you all for your time, and we'll save our remaining 3 minutes for any questions that you might have.
I love it. It's such an important topic. Just getting youth engagement. It's encouraging to me to see youth step up and say we want to be a part of the leadership and um, shaping what the next generation looks like. So I want to hear a little bit more about, you are two young women, both in the tech space and civic engagement. So can you tell me a little bit more about, well, I guess some of the challenges you've faced in developing this, both in the tech space and being young women, young leaders?
Yeah, I can touch on this. So Emily is a year older than me, and so I had the idea for Plain Policy like months before I actually started to build it out, and I think I was very fearful that like my idea wasn't good enough, that this is something that was already done. And I think I mean, honestly, seeing what Emily had already achieved up to that point with VR and Democracy was really inspiring to me, and kind of told me, as a younger woman in the tech space, that I can try and build the same thing. So that's kind of my perspective on that question.
Yeah, for me, I think disencouragement, being a young woman in tech, being a young woman in such a small section of tech, civic tech, I think there's not too many leaders that I can look up to that are women like myself. But for me, that was empowering. I want to be that to other people. I want to encourage people that, they can build in this space. And I did have some computer science background before going into this, but I don't think it was enough to really build something of this depth. And so for me, it was like reaching out to people that I knew through my network, and whether that be reaching out through LinkedIn or sending an email being like, hey, like I'm struggling with this bug on this one line in when I'm coding in Blender. Like, can you help me out with this? Just using anyone that like just asking for help is the most important part. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't curious, and if I didn't ask questions every time, I needed some help. So I think that's like the most important advice that I have for other young people that want to go into this space. Yeah.
Love
Thank
it.
you very much.
Yeah, that's such a great job.
That's fantastic. And we're right at the end of our time slot. So thank you both for all your hard work and for an amazing
Keep going.
presentation.
Yes.
Keep doing
Yes.
it. We need
Right.
I'm
more.
very excited to see what else. I'm gonna go download the app because I need the bill.
Yes, feel free to look us up, plainpolicy.org.
So plainpolicy.app for the tool, plainpolicy.org for our informational website.
And we're just viewingdemocracy.org. Yeah, thank you all so much for
Love
your
it.
time. Have a good rest of your
Thank
day.
you.
You too. Thank you.